Welcome everyone to another episode of Vancity Health. Today we have Justin Bedrosian, who completed his Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology at McMaster University, and he's currently studying at the Sherman College of Chiropractic in South Carolina. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
All good. For our audience's knowledge, Justin and I go back to the 2017 Kinesiology Games Conference held in Manitoba, and we progressively got to know each other a little bit better in the following years. And I guess just to kick things off, how's the transition to online classes been since COVID hit?
Good. So our school, because it's a program that uses a lot of hands-on learning, we had 0 online classes going into COVID.
Right.
And between the exams of last quarter and first week of this quarter, there was a 1-week break, and they transitioned to 0 classes to 100% classes online in a week, which was pretty amazing. So it was a bit of a learning curve, but they got it done.
Interesting. So I'm assuming like there's a lot of hands-on components, lots of labs, and then some, could be going into placements too, depending on where you're at. So how's the program like mitigated those issues?
So for the hands-on stuff, there were a lot of Zoom calls and stuff like that to give you kind of like the back and forth with the instructor, as well as just pre-recorded videos.
Right.
And in terms of like so for some of our setup classes for various adjusting, so this quarter I had pelvis and sacrum adjusting. So basically what I had to do is I had to get someone in my family. So I used my brother and my mom, and I would practice my setups on them, and then I would take videos of myself doing my setups and send that to the professor, and then that would get graded. In terms of labs, for like anatomy labs and stuff, we have access to an online 3D virtual anatomy. So like full cadaver, where you can take away and add to it every like layer of the body basically. So they did that for the anatomy labs. And then in terms of clinic, there wasn't a whole lot they could do just because the clinic was not allowed to be open.
Makes
so
sense.
They just did a lot more kind of like one-on-one time with the instructors and just trying to make sure that everyone was kind of keeping up to date, practicing, getting ready for when they reopened, and they have reopened, so back to normal-ish.
Makes sense. All right, so let's take a step back a bit. When did you know that you wanted to become a chiropractor?
So I was fortunate enough to find out about chiropractic really early on. Funny enough, a chiropractor actually introduced my parents to each other, so I'm kind of here because of chiropractic and because of chiropractic. So I have a lot to thank chiropractic for. But so my mom's best friend, she's a second generation chiropractor, and so she kind of gave me a rundown of the basics of it really early on, and it just kind of jived with me. I always knew I wanted to help people. I didn't want to kind of deal with blood, guts, and gore, so I kind of learned more and more. And I've actually known I want to be a chiropractor since I was 10. So
cool.
I've been a gold mine for a while, and I've
pretty young, yeah. I mean, that's good to have in mind. I mean, I would argue a lot better than when you're going into university. I have absolutely no idea what you'd want to do, but with that goal in mind, you could definitely cater your experiences and what you wanted to take to really gear yourself for chiropractic college.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I tried to do. I try to always keep that in mind. I definitely kept my mind open a bit to other things. I definitely looked into athletic therapy and a couple other things just as a backup plan in case you always got to have a plan B.
For sure.
But I definitely tried to keep everything I did in mind with chiropractic to try to stay true to that. So.
Right. So how did you select Sherman College?
So chiropractic has a very vast philosophical spectrum, we'll call it. Yep. And the way I was taught chiropractic is by my mom's friend who's a chiropractor was a way that jived well with Sherman. She basically said, if you want to learn it the way that I taught it to you, kind of like just on the side, Sherman College is the only place to be. It's a place that's still teaching true chiropractic to what it was intended to be initially versus kind of what it's become over time and transitioned and kind of been absorbed and kind of just been mixed and mashed, and you don't really know what it is in some places.
Right. And can you kind of speak to that a little bit more? Because I think, with talking with our other guests on chiropractic care, there seems to be some competing schools of thought behind it, where you can come from the perspective of you're dealing with more than just the back. So what perspective does Sherman College take?
So Sherman College, so I'm actually wearing a shirt right here. So this is our logo. So basically what this is it stands for above, down, inside out, which basically just means that healing comes from above, which is the brain, which is the control center of the body, down, and then from the inside out. So chiropractic works on the premise that, well, life works on the premise that your body is a self-healing and self-regulating organ. So when you cut your finger, you don't have to say, okay, brain, bring platelets there and bring some collagen there. Your body just innately does these things. You don't have to tell your liver to function, your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, anything like that. There's something in your body that just runs it intrinsically.
Right.
So what we do is we just try to help facilitate that body's ability to do that. So we deal with the spine primarily. There are some other ways in our philosophical viewpoint that you can deal with some of the other areas, but for 99% of our philosophy, you're dealing with the spine, and specifically like the spinal cord, because in that above, down, inside out, the brain communicates to the rest of the body through the spinal cord and then out through the spinal nerves.
Right.
So if there's and within the vertebra, you have 24 removable vertebrae within your spinal column. If any of those are out of alignment, which we call a vertebral subluxation, that can actually put pressure on those nerves and impair the function. So what we do as a chiropractor is we try to help facilitate that communication from brain to body and body to brain. So we will go in, we will analyze the spine for these vertebral subluxations, we will analyze it, and then we will correct them through a specific adjustment. We are not treating anything, we are not curing anything. The body is doing the healing. We're just facilitating that through our adjustments. So if you come in with asthma or menstrual cramps or whatever it may be, I am not treating you for said thing that you're coming in for.
Right.
I'm going to educate you that on the fact that your body is going to be what's doing the healing. I'm just going to be facilitating that through my adjustment. So I do not treat, I do not cure.
Gotcha. So from my understanding, at different chiropractic colleges, potentially with, a different perspective on things, if a patient comes in and, they have, some pains in their foot, I know they would be kind of guided to, do some, for example, like soft tissue work, and kind of like do that process along the kinetic chain. How would you approach things here?
So something with the foot, once again, the foot is secondary to me. I'm making sure that their nervous system is functioning properly. Right. So first, I work with them to make sure that their nervous system is functioning properly. If that were the case, they had zero subluxations in their spine, I couldn't do anything for them there, and their foot was still a problem, then I would refer them out to another specialist, because soft tissue work, that's great. Acupuncture, that's great. But I think what we should do, what we specialize in, we should be masters of one as opposed to jacks of all trades, because there are people who specify in acupuncture, massage, very soft tissue, physiotherapy. Yeah. So I don't specialize in that, so I don't want to do what they do. And I hope that eventually we could all come to terms that they wouldn't do what I do either, because they don't specialize in that. If I have issues with my toilet, I'm not calling a general contractor, I'm not calling an electrician, I'm going to call a plumber, because that's what they do, that's what they know. You want a specialist and not a generalist, and that's what we try to be.
Makes total sense. So in your own words, and from your schooling thus far, what is chiropractic care?
So chiropractic is it's basically just recognizing the fact that your body is the self-healing, self-regulating organism, and just facilitating that care through the you're going to locate, analyze, and correct vertebral subluxations to make sure that that communication cycle is actually flowing properly, and so that the body can function and heal as it's supposed to us coming in and thinking that we can treat or cure anything. We can't. No one really cures anything. The body, at the end of the day, what's doing it. If you take any sort of drug or treatment, if that drug isn't what's curing anything, your body is then going to take that, turn it into what it needs, and then the body is going to actually heal. Makes
sense. So, based on this and your upbringing, I'm assuming this is the reason why you chose to study at Sherman College rather than, going somewhere local, like the CMCC in Canada.
Yeah, so CMCC is the only chiropractic college in Canada, which is a little odd, as you would think there's a lot more interest than just that small, and it's a fairly small school as well.
Yep.
And it's on probably the other philosophical end of the spectrum is where I would kind of resonate with. So I kind of had the choice to go to school because it's close and convenient, or I had the choice to go to where I, was meant to go. So I'm definitely not at Sherman because it's convenient. inconvenient because it's
Yeah.
it's 14-hour drive.
Yeah.
I have to move away from my family, but I would do it. Like I always tell people, like if I'm halfway through the program, as of last week, I'm officially halfway through the program, and if they said, "Hey, we messed up your paperwork, you got to start over again," I'd be like, "Well, this sucks, but I'll do it. I'll keep going back until
Right.
I finally get that degree because it's where I'm supposed to be and it's what I'm supposed to be doing."
Well, that makes sense. I mean, if this is the school that really aligns with, what you value and what what you're passionate about, totally makes sense. And I think that just verifies that you made the right decision going here and then studying what you study.
Yeah. Exactly.
Great. So what experiences can you say, from Mac, helped you get into Sherman? So anything like class, volunteering, work experiences, like how did you cater your university experience other than just taking kin, to prepare you for Sherman?
Yeah, so kinesiology was a good background just to kind of get into the anatomy and physiology of the body to transition to chiropractic school.
Right.
But I would say that just school itself was not enough. I'm definitely a little bit critical of the modern kind of education system as a whole, and I just feel like
Totally agree.
It's you pay a lot of money, and I just feel like I never got the value of what I was paying for, and it was always on me to kind of continually search for all these different experiences, which McMaster did offer, but it was on me to do it.
Right.
Which, fair enough, you can't just get everything handed to you on a silver platter. So that's what I did. I went out and I did various things. So McMaster has a sport therapy program, sport medicine program. So basically, you get trained and then you're paired off with a varsity athletics team. So I was with the men's soccer team, and you're the trainer for the team. So you go to every practice, every game. You deal with them before, during, and after the sport. So that definitely helped prepare me for the clinical setting, I guess, and just kind of being in that clinic and very high volume, just kind of being able to manage a very hectic environment, because when you have a small room filled with the soccer, football, lacrosse, all these different teams, you got to try to facilitate care for each of these athletes. Definitely helps kind of with that and dealing with pressure. A couple other just really good volunteer opportunities. I did some work with Special Olympics, and I did some work with just some various charities. So that was just kind of they're just good for anyone.
So as you were preparing for chiropractic school, and this is really for other people, considering chiropractic school, whether it be at Sherman or potentially anywhere else, or it could be into the CMCC. So what are some core requirements, what are the core requirements that chiropractic schools are looking from their students?
Definitely varies from school to school. Generally, I don't think there's any degree requirement for the schools. I think you can get a degree in pretty much anything. So you can have a general Bachelor of Arts, so long as you have the certain course requirements for whatever school you're applying to.
Right.
So most of them are going to be your anatomies, physiologies, maybe some chemistry. It just kind of varies from school to school.
Did Sherman have any specific course requirements?
Pardon?
Sorry, did Sherman have any specific course requirements that you needed to take?
Yeah, they do it by course hours, so various like hours within a certain field. So that would be anatomy and physiology. There's chemistry, biology, maybe even a little bit of physics. I think.
Right.
I think physics was the recommended one.
Gotcha. And was there a minimum GPA requirement?
Yes, I can't recall off the top of my head what that is, but there is a minimum GPA requirement.
Noted.
One thing that I really admire about Sherman, though, is they're not just about you as a piece of paper. They're a lot more about you as a person.
Right.
So they have you write 2 separate essays on why you're choosing chiropractic and why you're choosing Sherman, so that you can actually kind of show why you're going, not just because I grew up 20 minutes away and I want to be a doctor, so that's why I want to come. Well, even if you have a 4.0, they might not be super enthusiastic about you going there because you're not passionate about it. They're really there to. It's a small school, and it's just one big family, and they want you to succeed. They want to help you as much as possible, and they kind of want everyone to be on the same page and be there for the right reasons, and not just because whatever your reasons are. They want you to be there because it's your life know everyone else is just doing more things and you just want to do more things and they help you do more things. It's really good in that sense.
I think that's an amazing, community to have, especially, at a school. It just makes sense. I think a lot of
not like a competition or anything going on there.
Right.
If you miss a class, it's not like someone to be like, no, you can't have my notes. It's like, yeah, for sure, you can have my notes. I'll help you study. I made a quiz for this. You want it? Like, it's very
that's fantastic.
Family based.
They really cared about what was on paper, like your GPA.
And that's I like to think I'm more than just a number. I'm more than
for
just
sure.
my GPA. I feel like there's a person behind that GPA, and they really did care about that, and they wanted to make sure that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your grades are. If if I get all C's and someone gets all A's, like you get the same degree at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And they want you to be successful. So if you are the smartest person in the room, but you have no people skills and you can't, talk chiropractic to people, then all that brain power kind of goes to waste. Versus if you are driven and this is your life's purpose, but you struggle with it in school, you're still probably going to be a very successful chiropractor, probably better than one who can't articulate what it is and what is a genius. So.
Right. Well, do you mind sharing what you wrote in one or both of those essays, explaining, why you wanted to get into it and the passion behind it and why Sherman?
Yeah, I think I've already kind of touched on some of it, but for the why chiropractic, it's why chiropractic because this is my life's purpose. And it's actually grown more so as I've gone there. Like I went in thinking chiropractic was, I thought I knew what chiropractic was, and I went in there like, yeah, this is for me. And then I got there, and it was actually the very first day. We take philosophy classes just to understand why we're doing what we're doing, why we think this way. Not indoctrinating us. It's very open. Like they're very open to you challenging them, which is also something that I was not accustomed to at a post-secondary educational institution. Questioning your professors.
Right.
They encourage it. They love it. And I remember on my very first day, I had my prior preconceived notions of everything challenged, and it's just constantly kind of like making me realize it's more and it's more and it's more and it's bigger, better, and it's awesome.
It's fantastic.
So I guess for the why chiropractic and then why Sherman is just because it's the school that's teaching it the way I think it should be taught. That it's keeping chiropractic pure and unadulterated. So we are still just dealing with removing interference from the nervous system through locating, analyzing, correcting vertebral subluxation. All of those other things are great. Modalities are great. Massage is great. Arthrostim is great. All these different things are great, but it's not chiropractic. It's great for someone else who that's what they specialize in, and that's their life's purpose. My life's purpose is not massage, so I shouldn't be giving massage because I'm doing my patient and myself a disservice. I should be referring them to someone who that's what they study, that's what they live for, and that's what they eat, sleep, breathe, and that patient will be much better under their care for massage than under mine. My passion is chiropractic. I will deliver the goods of chiropractic, and that's what Sherman teaches me, and they really prepare you to do that in the real world.
Even though this is virtual, I can like sense your passion, behind becoming a chiropractor, and I think it's so important to have as a practitioner, and I think that can be very infectious for your patients. I'm super excited for you for when you finish, and it would be really fun just as a plug to get you back on the show when you are practicing and to see how your patients receive it. And
and that's one thing as I've gone through, like currently I try to shadow as many doctors as I can and just try to see because school and practice are two entirely different things. They can try to prepare you all they can, but at the end of the day, like when the rubber meets the road, you got to be ready. So I've tried to go to as many offices as possible, and when you sit in a waiting room, you can just feel the energy. Like that's another thing that I love about chiropractic is people want to be there. Like, I don't know how many patients go to their medical doctor and sit there and they're like, I love it here. I want to come back. I need to be here.
Right.
You don't really get that there. Whereas chiropractic, you get to go into work and you get to have people love on you all day long. Like, people want to be there. They're happy to be there. They see the value. They see what's happening in their body and what's changing, what's adapting. And they're so grateful and they just give it back so much in their love. And it's just, it is infectious. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. So we really want to help our audience get an idea of what they need to consider if they want to, become a chiropractor. So just yeah, you can speak it in as much depth as you want. But how did you navigate, that Sherman evaluating, transcripts from school and any financial aid?
Yeah, so as a Canadian student, it's a little bit different, and I'm sure the audience is mostly going to be Canadian.
Yeah,
So they do try to help out with that because they like to bring people in from all over, especially because they know they're kind of the school, one of the few schools that's teaching it this way, and they don't want Canadians to feel like they can't get it because they're in a different country. Well,
right.
they try to help that, so they do give international scholarships to help kind of accommodate the move as well as the difference in the dollar. Like right now, the Canadian dollar is not doing so hot compared to the USD, so the international scholarship definitely helps with that. In terms of transcript, they were really good with that because at McMaster for kinesiology, it was a direct entry program. So we started doing kinesiology from day one. It wasn't like you had to do a general science year and then you kind of start getting into the kinesiology side. We got that right off the get-go, so I didn't have to take any I had to take a couple, but very few, like general chem, biophysics, anything like that. So on my transcript, it doesn't look like I have a lot of that, but I explained to the school, instead of learning biology, we get the plants and all this stuff, we said, well, kinesiology, you're dealing with the human body. We don't really care too much about plant cells, so we're going to give you biology, but we're just going to give you the biology pertinent to the human body. And so I explained that to them, and I gave Sherman my syllabi, I guess, from all of my classes of all my courses that would have kind of gone to those various requirements. They looked through them and said, yep, you've got all your hours and plenty more. So they're definitely willing to kind of accommodate that, and they're really willing to work with you. The admissions team is fantastic. I work actually as a student ambassador there, and so I deal with the team a lot, and they're just the most caring, loving, helpful people. I remember when I was applying, I got assigned my own admissions member, and she gave me her cell phone number. She said, call me day or night anytime, and just like was really personable, like just could feel that I wanted to be there, and she tried to do everything she could to be there. Like I remember I was studying for my finals, and in my fourth year of undergrad, and I got a text from her saying, hey, I know today's your last final, good luck on it. And I just thought, like, who does that? What
Right.
school does that? That's not normal. That's weird, and I like it. Like,
That's above and beyond for sure.
Yeah, that's above and beyond, and that was kind of like one of those moments where it's like, okay, this is the school. This is where it needs to be. So they're very willing to work with you. I'm actually helping a girl from Alberta right now. I think she's in Calgary. I'm helping her transition. She's going to be coming down to South Carolina in the fall, I believe. And so she's been asking me a bunch of questions, and I've been trying to help her as much as possible. So that's another thing too. You get access to the ambassadors who will definitely help you kind of transition into the Sherman life. And also just every student there you can ask too. There were no Canadian ambassadors at the time when I applied, so they just found one guy, Mike, who's from Edmonton. They said, hey, Mike, here's this guy's number. Let him know what he needs to know about Sherman. He went out of his way and just helped me in any way that he could.
That's awesome. I think more schools need to be like that in their application process if they really want to get these, masters or doctorate students. They really care for them. I think that is like, as you said, it like not only makes the applicant feel so much more special, but it makes it so much more inviting and a place you want to be there. Whereas a lot of places you're applying and you're just kind of scared almost during the application process, and you don't get a lot of feedback back. So that's huge perk.
Two entirely different atmospheres. One where everyone's kind of like on edge and just like, whoa, like it is very like scary and fear based. Like it's like you wait in line, you only speak when spoken to. Or like Germans, like very much just like they want you to succeed, they want to help you as much as possible, and they're definitely willing to do that.
Right. I'm assuming you needed to get your F1 visa out there to study south of the border.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's websites that you can just Google and find various things that you'll need to get across the border and whatever you need to as a Canadian student studying in the U.S. And the school helps with that as well. They'll give you any letters that you need for crossing the border.
Right.
There's tons of websites dedicated just to that. Like I had to figure out, I have a dog and I bring him down to school with me, like what paperwork I need to bring when I cross the border and just everything like that. So
with your dog?
Yeah.
With Tucker?
Yeah, with
Nice.
Tucker.
Amazing. Yeah, and if you're, looking into chiropractic college, did you need to wait to get your acceptance before you applied for your visa, or did you kind of have to do that before you even knew if you were going to get in or not?
No, so they were really good. It's a small school, and they try to make sure that there's lots of staff to just accommodate every student. Like, you never feel like you're on your own there.
Perfect.
And so they're really quick. Like, I think I got I wasn't sure if I wanted to start. So how our school works is, instead of semesters or trimesters, we do quarters. There's 4 quarters, obviously, in the year. And you can start at any one of those quarters. So you can start one of 4 times per year, whereas most schools is either once or maybe twice a year. So with Sherman, you can start 4 times a year.
Oh, that's so flexible.
Yes, very flexible. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to start right after I graduated in April, or if I wanted to wait till the fall. So they got me, from when I first contacted them to my acceptance, I think it was about a week. They really, really fast-tracked me, because they weren't sure if I was going to start, only a couple weeks away. And they were like, yeah, let's go. Let's get this paperwork done. Yeah. And they really sped things along. Like, the only thing I was waiting for was all the government stuff.
Right.
But that came. Sorry, was there another part of that question? Or did I
go no, that's great. I think that really goes to show, wow, they were ready to expedite you to get you right after your finals. I think that just, once again, just another nod to their much about how they care about their incoming class and their incoming students. And are you working there at all? Because I know under the F1 I think you can work up to 20 hours down there.
Yeah, so you can only work in your field that you're in school for. And even then, it's kind of a little difficult. So that's another reason why they try to give the scholarship.
Right.
Sherman does, because they know that the international students can't, you can work a part-time job on the side, like at a Wendy's or something. Like, you need to be working in the field, and there's not a whole lot within that. But the school does work study, so they definitely try to get the international students to do work study to help along.
Right. Work study just on campus, right?
Yeah. Sorry. So like in the library or
right.
Wherever it may be.
Good to know. So, within your program, what types of hands-on experience are you getting? Like preceptorship or shadowing, or can you talk to any of your potential placements?
So hands-on, I guess, outside the classroom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something going on like every week. There's a seminar or conference or something. Like, the school's always bringing in top-notch chiropractors from all over the world. So there's always ways for you to learn. And then you kind of get introduced to various doctors, and then all that's kind of on your own time and of your own volition. Like, you can do as much or as little of that as possible. But the thing is that everyone there wants to be there, needs to be there. So they're doing all these things on the side. So yeah, you can shadow any doc that you want, so long as they allow you to.
Right.
So you can shadow doctors, and then we do it. So there's 14 quarters, so it's 3.5 years accelerated. So it's not there's no breaks. There's a 3-week break between in the summer and the winter, and then a 1-week break in the spring and fall. There's no like huge break in the middle of it, like for summer break or anything like that. So it accelerates it from a 4-year program to a 3.5-year program. And so your first 8 quarters is all like the classroom stuff on top of like hands-on classroom stuff, and then 9 through 14 are in the clinic. If we still have classroom stuff, but you're in the clinic as well. For your last quarter, you can either stay and keep doing what you're doing in the student clinic at school, or you can do preceptorship, externship, whatever you want to call it, where you can go to a doctor and you can basically do everything that they do except adjust. You cannot adjust in your last quarter if you do the externship. So there's pros and cons to it. I definitely plan on doing it. There's a doctor in Ontario that is kind of taking me on as he's like my mentor now. So
Perfect.
He's already kind of said that I'll be doing my 14th quarter there. So
cool. And what exams do you need to take in order to practice in Canada?
So you need to graduate from an accredited school, which
Yep.
Sherman is, and then you need to take the national board exam. So that's there, and you have to take it the Canadian boards because there's different boards. So all my
Right.
friends right now are taking their American boards. There's 3 parts to the Canadian boards, and they're actually a lot later than the American boards.
Okay.
American boards start in 7th quarter, and then they're kind of broken up, and there's 4 parts, whereas the Canadian boards are back heavy. They're all in your last year, and there's 3 parts. You just
Gotcha.
need to pass all of those, and then you get your license, and you're good to go.
It sounds so easy. How many attempts do you get at these boards or these board exams?
I'm not too sure. It's still, the Canadian boards are still a little bit away from me,
Okay.
so I haven't gotten too familiar with all that.
Okay.
And the other thing with being at an American school is you get all this stuff in American terms. So I know a ton about the American boards.
I bet. For sure.
That's one downfall, I guess.
And did you need to take a certain exam to practice in Ontario specifically?
I don't believe so. I don't think
Okay.
I think there's one board and then you can practice wherever in Canada. In the States, you have to pass each state board.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on that, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it's just all across the board, just one.
Gotcha. I think our other chiropractic students said you had to take one. I'm not too sure about Ontario, but you do have to take an additional exam to practice in BC at least.
That could be true. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Our audience can do their own due diligence there. So, well, what else might a student need to consider if they wanted to study at Sherman College that you can speak to? So, things like insurance or loans or how transit, your phone plan.
So some things I got to consider. Yeah. So phone plans are dirt cheap down there. I pay currently $27 a month US.
That is unreal.
$27 a month, which is unlimited texting, call, and 10 gigs of data. So
wow,
very cheap. Rent is quite cheap down there as well. There's very affordable options in that area. It's not the most glamorous
right
area that the school's in. Like, it's not like beat up and run down, but it's very modest blue collar town. So rent is cheap, and if you want something nicer, there's options for that as well. What else do you consider?
Did you get any insurance or loans? Yeah.
Yeah. So you need some health insurance. So I just got one, basically like for like catastrophes, and then you're covered with that. I think it was $150 for the year. No, maybe more. I can't remember exactly what it was.
It was around there.
If people are curious, they can reach out to me, and I have
For sure.
find it. Another thing that people need to consider, not when they're going to Sherman or if they want to go to Sherman, this is kind of once you're there, but a big thing that I feel like we need to touch on is technique. So chiropractic isn't just like the art of chiropractic. There's art within the chiropractic field. So there's over 200 different techniques that I'm aware of.
Wow.
So basically, it's just how you address the spine, how you choose to locate, analyze, and correct these vertebral subluxations. And there's 100 different ways, there 200 different ways to do it. So just once you get there, that's another thing to consider. Is it's not just I'm here to do chiropractic. It's like, okay, how are you going to do that chiropractic?
Wow.
So yeah, like we say, like we have the philosophy, science, and art, which is like the three-legged stool of chiropractic. So the philosophy is your why, the science is the what, and the art is the how. So the art of the adjustment is the how. So I personally plan on doing an upper cervical technique. So that's basically where I'm only going to be adjusting the top 2 vertebrae in the spine. So C1 and C2 are atlas and axis. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wondering, why would you be doing that?
Right.
24
I was about to ask.
Why are you doing on just 2? Like, that seems kind of dumb. Like, you're limiting yourself. And basically the reason for that is just because it's such an important area anatomically and physiologically that if you address that, a lot of different things are going to address themselves because of the importance of the anatomy. So I actually have a little model here. So this is your atlas. So the top vertebra in your spine. So they call it the atlas because Atlas is Greek god, held up the world. Atlas holds up your skull, which holds up your which encases your brain, that is your world. It holds it up. And so it's a very important bone because I'll go through a little bit.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So through here runs your brainstem. Your brainstem is very, very important. The medulla oblongata specifically. It controls your respiratory center, sleep-wake center, blood pressure, all these different things. It has a ton of functions, especially with your parasympathetic nervous system. So that runs right there. So if you have if it's here and your atlas is out of alignment, putting pressure on that, twisted or anything like that, you can have a slew of different problems there. Another important anatomical structure is through these little transverse foramen, these two little holes here, runs your vertebral arteries. So those supply 20% of the blood to your brain, specifically your cerebellum and your brainstem, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I'm a little rusty on my cardiovascular anatomy. But so that's supplying 20% of the blood to your brain. And it takes two very sharp 90-degree turns right after and for this little junction here. So it's already at a pretty compromised state just because of the anatomy. It has to take those turns. So if, once again, that atlas is subluxated or misaligned, putting pressure on that, torquing that, occluding that, well, now you're sacrificing blood flow to the brain, which is not very good. Also, in front of these transverse processes run your internal jugular vein and your carotid artery, which is carotid artery is the additional 80% of the blood supply to your brain, and the jugular vein is 100% of the venous drainage from the brain. So you have 100% within this small area, you have 100% of your blood to the brain and from the brain. So if any of that's compromised, well, now you're cutting off oxygen and nutrients to your brain, and it can't get rid of all the bad stuff through the blood. So you're causing it. This is basically the bottleneck point. So if anything's going on here, then you have a whole slew of other problems. Another big thing that is coming up right now is research in the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system is the lymphatic system for your brain. So it's getting rid of all the waste. So your cerebrospinal fluid, which is what cleans your brain, basically cleans your brain of all the different neurotoxins and waste products. So it also drains through this junction here. So there's a ton of research being done right now specifically on this because they're seeing such good results. But if you cut off this area, if you like putting a cork in a wine bottle, if you cut that off and you don't have circulation of the CSF, well, then you're going to see a lot of problems. You have cooling of these toxins in your brain, and then also pneumatics. You can't compress a fluid, and there's more fluid in there and it's trapped. Well, what's going to compress? Your brain is going to compress. So you can run into a whole slew of issues with this. And there's a doctor in New York State who's working with the inventor of the MRI, Dr. Canadian, and they're doing research where they're taking pre-MRIs, adjusting the patient, and then post-MRIs, functional MRIs, so they're videos to see the cerebrospinal fluid moving up and down the spinal column from the spinal column, or the spinal cord up into the brain and back.
Yeah.
Pumps in, out. You see, it's blocked. At that point where the atlas sits, it's blocked. It's creating a bottleneck. It's not going up. It's not coming out. You have this choking point. Get the adjustment, rest the patient, then they take another one, and you just see this fluid up and down, moving perfectly. So the reason why Dr. Jamadian, who's a medical doctor, he's become very interested in this aspect of chiropractic is because it's seeing such good results. They're doing studies with post-concussion syndrome athletes. There's actually a 30 for 30 with the 85 Chicago Bears where the quarterback, Jim McMahon, he went to this chiropractor in New York, and he got this atlas adjustment done. And he said the way he described it, it was like flushing the toilet.
Yeah.
He just felt all this fluid in his head go down, and it's a really good video. I recommend anyone try to find it. It's 85 Bears 30 for 30 ESPN, and it's towards the end where Jim McMahon's talking about this, and he says basically going through how all of his teammates, a bunch of his teammates, are committing suicide and just have all these like depression, anxiety, can't sleep, all these different problems. And he said he was starting to have those things. And then he went to this chiropractor who wasn't treating him for post-concussion syndrome, sensation that was causing interference, removed it through the adjustment, and felt the flushing of the fluid. He felt all these different things changed in his body, and he said he no longer has suicidal thoughts or anything like that. So that's kind of like my introduction to chiropractic is more than just low back pain, which I'm sure a lot of people think, oh, I have low back pain, I should go see a chiropractor.
Exactly.
If you have a spine, you should go see a chiropractor. That's my opinion on it. If you go see a dentist for your teeth and gums, the health of that twice a year, that's pretty common for most people. What are you doing for your spine? Your spine, which houses your spinal column, which protects this nervous system, that's like, if you cut that spinal cord, you lose all function below there. That's pretty serious. So, I mean, that's just kind of where I think people need to start realizing the importance of your nervous system, of this health, how much of an aspect of health that it is, and that you can do a lot with it. Not that we're treating you for any of these things, but just the fact that your body can heal and adapt to all these different stresses.
For sure. And I think a lot of people overlook that. And thank you so much for that explanation. I think, that sheds a lot of light on, what chiropractic care is all about. And, it really shed some light on why you went in and why you were going to be focusing on, upper cervical. Super fascinating with the Alice. I think you could almost have your own episode on really, going into the science of that.
Yeah. Well, and funny enough, there actually, there's now, it's been around for a few years now. There's a diplomate program. So it's an additional 3 years of study. It's not 3 years in school, it's 3 years. It's like on weekends every now and then,
right?
Just on upper cervical care. So it's 3 more years just on the anatomy in this tiny little section of the body, because there's 3+ years of information and knowledge in this area because it's so important. So my mentor, he actually went through that and completed that. That's something I want to do as well. So there's,
and I think
the learning doesn't end after your 3.5 years in school.
Right. You're always learning.
Yeah. Sure.
And I think, just honestly, that display of and wealth of knowledge you have right there, I think is just another testament to how passionate you are about what you study. And I think that's so important in any practitioner in their program, because you really do need that passion. And as as someone who's gone to various chiros and practitioners, you can really tell who's really passionate about what they do and who really wants to help you out. And the difference between those people and some practitioners where it's just another day job and it's just, patients in and out the door. There's not really that level of care, that patient care, makes such a big difference.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that starts with just the admissions process.
Yeah.
Why do you even want to go there? Because a lot of those people might not be passionate about it because they never were passionate about it. I know several people who never wanted to become chiropractors. They wanted to go to medical school,
right?
Then couldn't get into medical school. Then they said, okay, well, I'll become a physiotherapist.
Yeah.
Couldn't get into physiotherapy school. And then they said, oh, I still want to be a doctor, so I'll apply to chiropractic school. And they go there, and it's like, are you there for the right reasons? Yes, you can still do a lot of good, but I just think the intention needs to be there. You need to. I'm not saying you can't find it along the way. That's definitely not what I'm saying, because I know a lot of people who kind of went to school because they wanted to be a doctor and they couldn't get into med school. Now they're the most passionate people about chiropractic. But I just think it's doing everyone a disservice to bring people in who aren't there because it's their life's purpose. And I know, like, you might think, like, oh, this guy's just a one-off. Like, no, like, my school is a bunch of freaks. Like, we are all just like this. We are all just, we wake up, we eat, sleep, breathe chiropractic.
That's great.
I don't have a life without a chiropractic. I don't clock out at the end of the day and stop being a chiropractor. I'm 100% always a chiropractor. Even though I'm a chiropractor student, I still try to get into that mindset. I'm a chiropractor. This is my life's purpose. This is what I'm here for. And you do it in everything. I'll be, in the grocery store and just, I'll find a way to bring chiropractic into things. I'll bring it. It's a part of life. It really is my calling.
That's amazing. And as I was saying, like, as a patient, you can really tell. And honestly, that level of care really means a lot, and it will drive business, and it will drive more people to you, because, like, honestly, so infectious hearing you talk about it. Almost makes me want to study chiropractic. But anything you wish you would have wanted to know, or you think you would have done differently before applying to Sherman, or make your application better in any way?
Things I wish I would have known more about before I came in was just I wish I knew more about chiropractic and what it really is. I wish I knew this amazing power the body has to heal itself, and it's this selflessness of the chiropractor in a way that we don't take the credit. If I give an adjustment, I did not heal that person of anything. That was not me. It's empowering that person to say your body did that. Your body is amazing. It has the capacity to heal anything. Really, right now, your body and my body are creating cancer cells and destroying cancer cells. It does this stuff all day long, and we just need to realize that and kind of open our minds to that and to see I wish I would have known that, because I might have taken a 3-year degree and just went right after 3 years in my undergrad, because you can apply after 3 years to most schools. So I might have just not done my 4-year degree and started doing chiropractic earlier, because I don't think enough people hear this side of the argument. I think because there's not very many schools that teach this, there's not many people who practice this, so it doesn't get shared. So people kind of get the one-off chiropractic, pain treating, low back pain, come in when you ache. After that you're kind of wham bam, thank you ma'am, one and done. Just it's not facilitating that and it's not like a scam either. You should be coming in for your absolutely. You should I plan on adjusting my children the day they're born to the day that I die or they die. It's a part of your life. It needs to start from the beginning and continue on. And I feel like people need to know this. And I don't think the message is getting out there. And I hope that this gets out there. I hope more people start realizing that there's more to chiropractic than just treating low back pain or
for sure
aches and pain. But it's about life. It's about making sure that your nervous system is functioning properly, brain and body are communicating, and you're expressing your life to the fullest.
100% agree, and I'm happy that we can use our platform to amplify that message, especially for the students listening to this, on the fence. And with that, do you have any last tips for students who are on the fence about studying, at a chiropractic school and potentially abroad, and potentially at Sherman?
Tips, I would say go shadow a doctor. Go find a chiropractor, any chiropractor. Find several, actually. See what you like about some, see what you don't like about others. You might hate what I said, and so don't come to Sherman. Find a chiropractor who practices like what I've talked about. Maybe you love it, maybe you hate it. Go see someone else who practices entirely differently. See what you like, see what you don't like. If you guys want to know a list of chiropractors in Canada who practice the way that I've been speaking about, I have a list. I can share that with you guys. It's great. I would definitely just say get out there and just find doctors, see what they say, see what they like, what they don't like, see what jives with you, what doesn't, and try to find a school that fits that. I would definitely say don't go to a school because it's closer, because it's easier, because this or that. Go because that's what you need to learn. They have the knowledge that you need to gain. I almost made that mistake of going to a school that didn't teach what I wanted to know, thinking I could just kind of, just put my head down and just get through it. And then I'm thank God every day that never happened. I'm sure I'm getting what I need. Right. And I would hate to see anyone else go to any school, Sherman or any other, that they don't need to be at and not get the knowledge that they need.
For sure. And with that, thank you so much, Justin, for being on the show. If people had questions they wanted to follow up with you on, how might they best reach you at?
You can use my Sherman email, which is jbedrosian, so JBEDROSIAN @sherman.edu. Find me on Facebook, add me up, send me a random message. Stalk me on the internet. I'm sure everyone can do that these days. Just reach out.
For sure. We'll link some of your profiles when we post this. But once again, thank you so much for your time and
one quick little tip.
For sure.
Sherman College actually also does. It's called the Showcase Sherman Weekend, where they will actually pay to bring you to Sherman for a weekend and show you what we're all about.
Even if you're Canadian.
Yep, they'll fly you down there. They'll put you in a hotel. They'll feed you, and they'll show you around. So that's a great way to figure out if it's the school for you. It's a free way to do it as well. So
Fantastic. I think I think a lot of our audience would be very interested in that for sure. But yeah, we'll tag your profiles and yeah, right. Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to hopefully having you back on the show once you're fully practicing and have some
absolutely,
experience.
buddy. Can't wait.
Great. Thanks a lot.